We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with our LN panel, Tim Donner, Jeff Charles, Graham J. Noble, and Scott D. Cosenza. Now, earlier in the show, we've talked about the red wave failing to materialize and some of the biggest shocks of the night. And I think it's quite clear that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis had a pretty good night, as we discussed earlier. Now, Graham, is what Ron DeSantis did in Florida, is that replicable across the nation? And what does that portend for the future?
It would be nice from a conservative leaning point of view to say that, yes, it is. I'm not sure that it is. It's certainly replicable across all of the red states, without a doubt. But could DeSantis actually, if, say, he was to run for president and win the GOP nomination, could he translate his wild, seemingly limitless popularity in Florida now? Could he translate that onto the national stage? I'm not really so sure. And I think if he were to become the GOP nominee this time around, assuming he runs, which I don't necessarily think he will, I think the level of savagery that will be directed at him by the left and the media and the Democrats will actually make people start to think that Trump actually had it pretty easy.
Well, he's obviously literally the new Hitler as opposed to literally the old Hitler, rather than literally an actual Hitler.
He's like Joseph
keeps
Goebbels
Twitter free. It's going to be hard to do to him what they did to Trump.
Literally Hitler 2.0.
2.0, that's the working one.
But look, I mean, DeSantis, I don't have any problem believing he could translate what he's done in Florida to the country, because look at some of the groups that he won. He won the Hispanic vote. He'd have to do that nationally. He won votes in Miami-Dade County, which is as hardcore Democrat as you can get. He won 62 out of 67 counties in a very diverse state. Okay. And Florida, let me also point out that Florida is a place where people have moved from all over the country. So it's a very diverse population. I think the reason he almost has to run, DeSantis, is that this is his time. When you have the kind of victory that he had, combined with the fact that the person who would be his chief rival, of course, Donald Trump, had a bad night. Only J.D. Vance, among the people that he had pushed into the nomination, really had a good night. Herschel Walker has lived to fight another day because of the runoff rule, which, by the way, ironically, could benefit the Republicans this time, because if they didn't have it, Raphael Warnock would have won this race already. DeSantis is Trumpism without Trump. He's Trumpism without the toxic personality that has attached to Trump. And I think that, when you can take someone who's a polished professional politician like Ron DeSantis, who has just absolutely soared as a star he's a rock star after last night. There's no question. I think that translates nationally. And I think it actually will put Trump on the defensive, because at this point, how many Republicans would prefer Trump to DeSantis given the choice? I think those numbers might have changed overnight.
When you ran down the election results in the last segment, Tim, I thought, gee, the big loser on election night is Donald Trump. That's the big loser.
He is a big loser because, his candidate, there was always skepticism about his candidates, but, it looks like the Democrat strategy of throwing money at these MAGA candidates actually worked. And it also looks like, the scorched earth, if you elect Republicans, it will be the end of the world, actually worked. We were mocking them. I was among them. And the voters were saying, that's not working with me. But in a lot of cases, I guess they were lying too.
So, I've seen since the results of the elections came out, I've seen so many left-leaning outlets talk about this specific issue, that there was character flaws. They were poor candidates or poor quality candidates. And it's repeated again and again ad infinitum. But I keep thinking, this is the same side that supported the candidacy of John Fetterman. And in terms of a low quality candidate, Jeff, what do you think? Is there any worse candidate than that?
I might be tempted to believe that if I didn't see so many people on the right saying the exact same thing. Remember how the base reacted when Trump endorsed Dr. Oz? They weren't having it. Even with Herschel Walker to a certain extent. I mean, even though people like Herschel Walker, everybody in Georgia loves Herschel Walker, they know what kind of baggage that he has. They've seen him speak on TV. They know what they're dealing with here. And I think with DeSantis, he is not tested on the national stage yet. But I think on the right, even before the midterms, I keep getting the sense that people like Trump, but they're ready to move on. And I know that flies in the face of all the polling that's been done about the potential 2024 primaries. Trump defeats DeSantis by a lot. And that gap has kind of closed, but Trump is still way ahead. But I kind of question that. I mean, these polls are being taken and DeSantis isn't even in the running. What happens if he were to announce and then they actually start campaigning? Would those numbers change, especially with Trump kind of shooting himself in the foot here and there with these bad midterm results? It's already been shown that a lot of the people that he picked in critical races weren't the best people. I think that there are a lot of people, and I'm not saying Trump would necessarily lose, but I think there is this sense of people wanting to say, let's just get past all the drama. Yes, they will attack DeSantis just like they attacked Trump, probably even worse. But there's a difference between being attacked with a fully loaded gun, which would happen with Trump because he has so much baggage, and a gun with maybe one bullet. I mean, they're not going to be as effective against DeSantis as they might be against Trump. And I think that's the sense that people are getting.
So you and I, we've talked about this numerous occasions on Liberty Nation Radio about the East and West Coast exodus to Florida. So you've got people in these far-flung places that already want to live under Ron DeSantis, right? So isn't that kind of the point you're making, that he isn't nationally despised by so many people? Obviously, Trump is very popular with people who support him and very, very unpopular with those that don't. How do you square the circle here for me, Scott?
Well, you don't. It's going to be Trump versus DeSantis in a battle that will tear up the Republican Party and may sufficiently damage their chances for a presidency in 2024 that Joe Biden could win re-election.
I think
I think I heard Graham Noble say that on the Conservative Five, LN's roundtable series. But if it wasn't him, it was somebody else. I do think that it really will have a existential impact on the future. Donald Trump is toxic to so many people. Some within the Republican Party and of course, obviously those on the opposite side. And just not true for DeSantis.
He's also young. He's got plenty of time to run for president, but this is his time. I mean, he has ascended as high as he could ever possibly go. But I do agree that, it would be an absolute blowout of a Republican primary because Trump takes no prisoners. And the fact that DeSantis believes all the same things as Trump doesn't matter. DeSantis would be bludgeoned by Trump, same way as Little Marco and Lion Ted and Crooked Hillary.
Low energy Jeb.
He's going to try. I don't know that he's going to be successful, Tim.
Would be brutalized.
There's plenty to go after Trump for.
Honestly, the fact that, the best that he could come up with Ron DeSanctimonious, I don't know if Trump's attacks will land on DeSantis the way they landed on Jeb Bush, because, DeSantis is not Jeb Bush. He has a lot more likability. So I think Trump will savage him, definitely, and some of those blows will land. But Ron can kind of punch back too. He's just not as he's more of a pugilist, and Trump's more of a brawler, right? Yes. So it'll be interesting to see those two go at it.
That's a good way to put it. I'm going to throw out a hypothetical here for the panel, and that is that I'm going to put myself in the mind of Ron DeSantis. And we start with the fact that Donald Trump is going to run. in 2020. Of that, I have no doubt, and I don't think anyone really doubts that.
Agreed.
I think he's going to run in 2020. And
2024, right?
Sorry, not 20.
We recorded this 4 years ago.
Well, it's because
going out live.
We were very prescient. It's amazing.
We have so much deja vu going on right now that I can't even. Sometimes I think I'm back in 2020. But anyway, so yeah, Trump's going to run for 2024. So what does DeSantis perhaps think to himself? He thinks, well, I just got a phenomenal. A phenomenal thumbs up from the people of Florida, and I could either stay down here in sunny Florida and serve out another term as governor here, and then in 2028, when Trump is obviously out of the picture, whatever happens, then I can step in and I'll have just like almost probably a clear field to the GOP nomination for the White House. I could do that, and if I do that and stay here in Florida and keep my powder dry, I don't have to get into a nasty barroom brawl with Trump on the national stage, and say what you want about DeSantis, smart guy, savvy politician, but is he going to win a nomination fight with Trump? I don't believe he is, even after last night, and therefore, and if he loses the nomination to Trump, that actually kind of also damages his political cachet. He can avoid all of that by staying in Florida and biding his time for another 4 years. So, am I right about all of that? I'm just thinking that maybe those kind of thoughts might be going through his head.
Wise words indeed from Graham J. Noble. Now, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back shortly with the LN panel discussing the disunited states of America. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative Five. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe space.
You only did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative Five.